Greetings one and all, my name is Dr. Imran Khan and welcome to my channel Chemistry Unscrambled. This is the fourth video of grade 10th of chapter Chemical Reactions and Equations. In this video, we will study various types of reactions and the effect of oxidation in everyday life. Before starting the topic, I would request all the new viewers to kindly subscribe to my channel so that you can get latest updates on my videos. So without wasting any time, let's dive into the topics. So the first part in this particular edition is some important types of chemical reactions. So they can be categorized into 5 major types of chemical reactions that are combination reactions, decomposition reactions, displacement reaction, double displacement reaction, and oxidation reduction reactions. So we'll first study combination reactions. So what are combination reactions? As the name suggests, when two or more elements or two or more compounds or two or more substances combine to produce a single substance, then those particular reactions are called as combination reactions. So you can see in the first example that magnesium and oxygen combine to form magnesium oxide. So it is an example of a combination reaction. Second example, you can see that H2 and O2 combine to form water. In the third example, carbon and oxygen combine to form CO2. Fourth example, hydrogen and chlorine combine to form HCl. And you can see the fifth, sixth, and the seventh reaction also fall in the same category. The second type of reactions are called as decomposition reactions. In decomposition reaction, you will see it is just the opposite of the combination reaction. In this type of reaction, a chemical compound decomposes to form two or more substances. So we'll quickly see certain examples. So first example is calcium carbonate when decomposed produces calcium oxide and CO2. So you can see that one substance decomposes to form two or more substances. Now decomposition reactions are majorly categorized into 3. So first is thermal decomposition reaction, which suggests that the decomposition that takes place when heat is supplied. This is called as thermal decomposition. So let's quickly check out certain examples. So first example is thermal decomposition of potassium chlorate. When it is heated, it decomposes to form potassium chloride and 3 oxygen. Second example, you can see when FeSO4 is thermally decomposed, it will produce FeO, SO3 and SO2. FeSO4 is green in color, whereas FeO, that is ferric oxide, is red in color. While performing the experiment, you will observe a pungent smelling gas evolving in this particular reaction, and that is SO2. So you can see in the pics that are shown below. The third example is thermal decomposition of lead nitrate. When it is heated, it produces lead oxide, which is yellow in color, and NO2 plus oxygen gas is also released. So you can see in the experiment that NO2 gas is released. NO2 gas are brown in color. So you can see when the experiment is performed, that brown color NO2 fumes are evolving. Next is electrical decomposition, which is also called as electrolysis. The first and the foremost example is decomposition of water when electricity is supplied. So you can see water decomposes into hydrogen and oxygen, 2 moles of hydrogen and 1 mole of oxygen. You can see in the experiment as well that during the electrolysis of water, 1 volume of oxygen is produced and 2 volumes of hydrogen is produced. Now this is a very important question that is there in the NCERT. Next is electrolysis of NaCl produces sodium and chlorine. Electrolysis of aluminum oxide produces aluminium and oxygen. Third type of decomposition is light decomposition, or decomposition that takes place in the presence of sunlight or light. So first example is a decomposition of AgCl. When it is placed in presence of sunlight, it produces grayish white silver, and chlorine gases evolved, which is yellowish green. You can see in the picture that is given below. Exactly similar is the decomposition of AgBr. When light is thrown on AgBr, the yellow silver bromide changes to grayish white silver and bromine gas is released. Now this particular reaction is also used in black and white photography, so keep this thing in mind. Now decomposition reaction also occurs in our body. When we intake food, it contains starch and protein, so whatever amount of starch that is there is decomposed to glucose by the enzymes that are present in our mouth and our body, and whatever amount of protein that is present is decomposed into amino acids, which you know is the building block of the body. So in our body, decomposition reactions also take place. Next type of reactions are displacement reactions. So what are displacement reactions? When a highly reactive element displaces the less reactive element from its solution, so hence that is a displacement reaction. So for displacement reaction, you need to remember the reactivity series for metals as well as for the non-metals. In the metal reactivity series, you can see that potassium is the most reactive, whereas gold is the least reactive. In the reactivity series for non-metals, fluorine is most reactive, whereas phosphorus is the least reactive. So you need to keep the reactivity series in your mind so that you can understand the next examples. So first example, you can see that copper sulfate is reacting with zinc. Copper sulfate is blue in color, zinc is silver white when they react. So zinc being more reactive, it displaces copper from its solution, forming zinc sulfate, which is colorless, and copper, which is red brown. This you can see in the picture below, that red brown copper is collected on zinc. Second example, copper sulfate reacts with magnesium. Copper sulfate is blue in color, magnesium is silver white, as you can see in the picture. Magnesium being more reactive, it displaces copper, forms magnesium sulfate, which is colorless, and it forms copper, which is red brown, as you can see in the picture below. Third example is copper sulfate when reacts with iron. Copper sulfate again is blue in color, iron is gray in color, as you can see here. Iron being more reactive, it displaces copper from its solution, forming iron sulfate or ferrous sulfate, which is green in color, and copper, which is red brown in color. So you can see in the picture that is given below. Fourth example is reaction between CuCl2 and lead. CuCl2 is green in color, as you can see here, and lead is bluish gray. So lead being more reactive, it displaces copper from its solution, forming lead chloride, which is colorless, and copper, which is red brown, as you can see in the picture below. Fifth example is reaction between silver nitrate and copper. Silver nitrate is colorless and copper is red brown, as you can see. So copper being more reactive, it displaces silver from its solution, forming copper nitrate, which is blue in color, and silver, which is gray white, as you can see in the picture below. In the fourth example, sodium plus H2O, sodium is more reactive than hydrogen, hence it displaces hydrogen from its solution, forming sodium hydroxide, and hydrogen gas is evolved. Now this reaction you must have studied in your junior classes. Whenever sodium is added to water, it starts burning because hydrogen is released, and the reaction is so much exothermic that whatever hydrogen is released, it starts burning. So that is why the reaction is highly exothermic. The seventh example, chlorine when reacts with potassium iodide. Chlorine is more reactive than iodine, hence it displaces iodine from its solution, forming potassium chloride, and iodine is violet in color, hence it starts forming this violet color solution, as you can see here. Fourth type of reaction is double displacement reaction. In this, two compounds react and the cations of both the compounds exchange their position. So hence these reactions are called as double displacement reaction. As you can see in the first example, silver nitrate and NaCl combine. Now the cations will exchange their position, thereby forming NaNO3, which will be in the aqueous state, whereas AgCl will be precipitated out, as you can see in the picture that is given on the right hand side. Now one thing that should be kept in mind is that majorly one of the product that is formed during double decomposition reaction is a precipitate. So kindly keep this thing in mind. Next example is reaction between barium chloride and sodium sulfate. Barium and sodium will exchange their position and form barium sulfate, which will appear in the form of white precipitate, and sodium chloride, which will be in the aqueous state. You can see in the picture that is given below. The third example is reaction between copper sulfate and H2S. Both the cations copper and hydrogen will replace each other and form copper sulfide, which will appear as a black precipitate, and H2SO4 will be there in the aqueous state, as you can see in the picture below. The third reaction is between aluminium chloride and NH4OH. Both the cations, that means Al3 positive and NH4 positive, will exchange their positions, forming aluminium hydroxide, which will appear as gelatinous white precipitate, and ammonium chloride will be in the aqueous state. Fifth reaction is reaction between lead nitrate and potassium iodide. Lead and potassium will exchange their position, forming lead iodide, which is a yellow precipitate, and potassium nitrate will be present in the aqueous state. Fifth type of reactions are oxidation and reduction reactions. What are oxidation reactions? When a substance loses hydrogen, then it is an oxidation reaction, or when a substance gains oxygen, then it is an oxidation reaction. On the other hand, reduction reactions are those in which the substance loses oxygen or it gains hydrogen. So these two are the definitions of oxidation and reduction reactions. In the further chapters, you will learn more definitions of oxidation and reduction. In this particular chapter, only these two definitions are sufficient, so we'll stick to it. Now, there are two more topics in this particular type of reaction, that are oxidizing agent and reducing agent. So what are oxidizing agents? Substances that get reduced will act as an oxidizing agent, and substances which get oxidized will act as a reducing agent. Simple. If a substance gets oxidized, it will act as a reducing agent. If a substance gets reduced, it will act as an oxidizing agent. So let's quickly see certain examples. In the first example, you can see that CuO is changing to Cu. CuO loses oxygen, that means it is undergoing reduction, hence it will act as an oxidizing agent. On the other hand, hydrogen is gaining oxygen, so hence it is undergoing oxidation, hence it will act as a reducing agent. In the second example, sulfur is losing hydrogen, that means it is undergoing oxidation, hence it will act as a reducing agent, whereas chlorine is gaining hydrogen, thereby it is undergoing reduction, and hence it will act as an oxidizing agent. Third example, MnO2 changes to MnCl2. Mn loses oxygen, that means it is undergoing reduction, hence it will act as an oxidizing agent, whereas HCl changes to Cl2 by losing hydrogen, thereby it is undergoing oxidation and hence will act as a reducing agent. Fourth example, SO2 changes to sulfur. So sulfur is losing oxygen, hence it is undergoing reduction, thereby it will be acting as an oxidizing agent, whereas H2S is gaining oxygen, therefore it is undergoing oxidation and will act as a reducing agent. Now we come to the last topic, and that is effects of oxidation reaction in everyday life. First in it is corrosion. Now what is corrosion? Whenever metal undergoes decomposition due to the presence of moisture, air, and sometimes chemicals, so this particular phenomena is called as corrosion. In corrosion, the mass of the element or the metal goes on decreasing. So this is corrosion. Now when this corrosion occurs in iron, then it is called as rust. You must have seen in iron those flaky substances get deposited on the surface of iron. That is what is called as rust. So this takes place when iron gets oxidized in presence of air and water. So this is the reaction where iron is oxidized in presence of water or moisture to form Fe2O3.XH2O. This is the formula of rust. Please keep in mind the formula of rust because this is asked in 1 mark question. Second is rancidity. So what is rancidity? The condition produced by aerial oxidation of fats and oils in food marked with smell and taste is called rancidity. That means you will observe that foul smell comes out from the food and its taste also changes. So that means the food has gone rancid. That means it is now unfit to eat. So how can this be prevented? How can rancidity be prevented? So keep in mind, there are just two things that should be kept in mind. First off, the food should be away from aerial oxidation, and secondly, the temperature should be low. So we'll be concentrating on these two things. So first is by adding antioxidant to foods containing fats and oil. So example of an antioxidant is butylated hydroxyanizole and butylated hydroxytoluene. So what do these antioxidants do? They do not allow the food to get oxidized. So this is the basic concept of using an antioxidant in foods. You must have seen mothers or grandparents when they are preparing pickle, they add BHA or BHT in the pickle so that the pickles do not get oxidized or do not get rancid. Second is by packaging fats and oil containing foods in nitrogen. Nitrogen, you know, is non-reactive at room temperature. That is why nitrogen is filled in, for example, chips packet, so that they do not react with the food that is present in the packets. Thirdly, by keeping food in a refrigerator, that means the temperature should be low. Fourth is by storing food in airtight containers, that means there should be no air. And fifth, by storing foods away from sunlight, that means the temperature should be low. So this was it in this particular video and the chapter. With the help of the 4 videos, we have completed this particular chapter of grade 10th. If you face any problems, you are most welcome to mention it in the comment section. I will solve your queries as early as possible. So this is Dr. Imran Khan signing off. Hope you all have enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching it. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Stay healthy. Stay safe.